What is up, YouTube? It's Cordless, Cord Campbell, coding Mitta. Doing some coding today. Alright, so without further ado, we've got something broken. And I think that's my washing machine banging around. And, hold on, I'm gonna have to look. Oh, you know what? It's the heater. Well, it's not frozen here like in most places in the United States. I'm in Alameda, but it's not freezing here. I was outside earlier with just a lightweight coat on. I was going to show, what was I going to do? I was going to set up the, I was going to set up this thing. So what you can do in OBS Studio is you can add a browser. So I'm going to add a browser. I'm going to say OK to that, and it's going to pop up, and then I'm going to take this URL, I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to go in here to the chat, and I'm going to say pop out chat, which I guess, I guess I could pop chat out and then put it in the other view. I guess I'll do that actually. Anyway, so what you do is you take this URL and you paste it in here, and then you say OK. And then, well, that doesn't look very good, but I guess it works. I don't know. Is that okay? It was supposed to do something else. I think there's another format for it. I guess that's kind of lame, but whatever, we'll just put it right there. How can we do this? We do it like this, and I'll have to send it to the back. Let's see how far back we can send it. I guess that'll work. Let me test it and see what happens. Did it work? I don't know if it worked. It did work. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that like that, I guess. Maybe I can put it right there. I'll do better next time, but at least we can see if somebody chats. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to show you how to put it in there. There's not really that much to it. I guess I need to get like some CSS that's different or something. I'll do it on the next stream. I don't want to chew up a lot of time here. All right, so minimize this so I'm not looking at myself anymore. And then let's jump right into it. So we got some stuff that's broken actually in prod. So grub is broken again. I don't know what happened to it. I'm just going to close tag because that doesn't matter. And, well, that's pretty funny. Purchase. Yeah, if somebody wants to purchase this website, well, then it's going to cost them because that's what I'm doing it for. So I'm going to make some money. All right, so that's why we do startups, right? Is to make some money. I don't do a startup for fun. We do it, well, I mean, we do it because it's fun, but we do it because we want to make money. Okay, so grub is busted. So it's kind of interesting debugging this dynamic JavaScript stuff. I don't know why it's broken. This is saved. Let's run it again and see what happens. I'm trying to do Craigslist. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Let's see if that has something to do with it. You know what? I don't even know if my sound's good. And I've been so bad about sound. I really need to listen. So let me see if I can listen to myself real quick. Sorry to be so distracting. I'm always distracting. Let's see here. Yeah, it sounds good. And I mean, it sounds okay. It could be better. If I went that way, it would sound better, but I don't like to have the mic in front of me because I'll be bonking on it. Okay, let's minimize that so I'm not looking at myself anymore. All right, so we're in here and, well, it's still broken. So that's still broken. That's no good. And I kind of wonder what's wrong with it. So I'm going to select the whole thing and then I'm going to go to JavaScript validator. can hear me talking. It says missing a semicolon on 29. Well, that's true. I don't think that'd break anything though. Spool is better written in dot notation. Description is better written in dot notation. Oh. Whatever. Use line 56. Use equals, oh bang equals. Oh, you know what? That's the problem right there. I was doing something to it. So loop through the file names that come back. Oh, I remember. So what was happening is we have this is sort of like a, this is a, not sort of like, it is a polling event. So if you're programming and you tell something to do something, like a separate part of the system, and it's capable of doing that like in a manner that's threaded. And if you have two computers, that's essentially, and you just have to take this computer and you say to this computer, hey, do something, and then this computer goes, okay, I'm going to go do something. Then you can do it in a way that doesn't block. So it depends on how you call this, of course, but like just imagine that you're just able to just poke a button on it. This machine has a little arm on it, and it pokes a button on this machine, and this machine does something when you push the button. Well, after you let go of the button, you don't need to do anything else if you have a finger on this computer pushing that button. And you just push the button, and then you just like retract your hand, and then you're done. Well, this computer then spools up and does something. Well, that's sort of like threading. So if systems are independent enough, then you can have what's essentially a threaded system. And so if you tell something to go do something, and that's what we're doing here, is we're actually calling out to the grub boxes to go crawl something, then we don't really know when they're done. They could give us a call back and say, hey, we're done, and then we could update in here. But I don't have sockets running to the shell, and I did that on purpose. I investigated early on having a socket just talking to the server all the time so that I could send an event. If I needed to, I could say, hey, you need to refresh the page or something. And previous project I did that was similar to this one, I used a type of ping. So I could ping the browser and say basically I kept a connection open and I said, hey, the browser needs to update. And then the browser would refresh itself. Not the most elegant thing, but it actually worked pretty well, which maybe means it's elegant. Refreshing the page is less than ideal, usually. When you have to redraw the page, it's a visual disturbance in the page. But it would refresh the page, and then the page would check to see if it needed to fetch something that was ready. And so in this case, we're telling grub to go off and crawl the site, but then it might actually, when it goes and checks, which is here, it's 15 seconds, it might not find what it's looking for. And so what was happening is it was coming back and it was busted, the image was busted. So we're going to fix it right now. So I'll walk through this real quick. So this JavaScript file is loaded dynamically by the shell. So if we look at the shell source code, we'll see this file, and this is actually this file. And we have some, here and there, we have some things like this. So for example, we'd have my email in here. So we have some templating going on inside the shell, but there's not a lot of it. And so what happens is, in the shell, is that when a command is typed in, it comes to right here and it makes a call. It's this AJAX call to /j. It makes a call to the Mitta system, which is running on AppEngine, and it says, I have a line that the user has typed in. Here's the line. And then the system then parses that line and determines that the user is trying to run a command. For example, command. If we were to type that in. And it says puzzle 404 attempt to load command. And the reason why it does that is because in shell pi, we have the /j route handler. And it comes in here and then it tries to load it. And if it can't load it, here's where it loads it. And if it can't load it, then it loads the not found command, which runs this. That's all it does. And in the not found command, we have one thing that's important here, which is we have a set timeout function. Now the reason that I do this in these shell commands is because what happens is when I hit enter, there's JavaScript running, jQuery console, which I've rewritten a little bit of it, cleaned it up a little bit, and it's being loaded as well as when this page is loaded. jQuery console loads, it's right here, and the uploader, of course. And then what happens is it makes that dynamic call, then evals the result, the response from the server, and then in this case it loads the not found file, and then it sets a timeout. And so now the timeout's running and the original query for calling the server with the line typed in by the user then is cleaned up. And then you just have this timeout kind of hanging out. And then the timeout goes off. And then the timeout has its own context. And then inside of that context, you have access to functions like controller report and things like that. And then you have like basically your scope of what's going on is happening inside of this timeout. So that's why I use the timeouts like that. If you try to do anything else fancy inside a command, and let me show you what I'm talking about here. If you do something like, we'll just do purchase. So we're going to speak this up. We'll speak, and it didn't scroll, so we're going to go into purchase, and so we need a scroll. So we need to say scroll here, like that. And then we should be able to type that again, and then it scrolls. And of course, this is not a command; it's just a joke. But the whole idea is you don't need that timeout. But if you were to do something asynchronously in here, such as make a Ajax call or something like that, you do need the timeout. I don't understand exactly why, but it's just the way it is. So anyway, that's the way I'm rolling with it. So we're going to go in here and we're going to then finish up what I was starting to do before, which is looking through the result that comes back to see if there are any file names. And I mean, really what I ought to do here is maybe if there are any files in there at all, it will show you the last one it did, is what it's going to do. So if, for example, I say something like grub news.google.com and I hit enter, well, it's breaking right now, but normally what it would do is it go off and it'd make a call to the grub box. The grub box is going to image the site and then it's going to return it, but it's going to post it back to the spool that was created when I ran this command. But if the spool has already been created for the URL, so it basically checks to see if there's a spool called with a URL called news.google.com, then and just the URL is just the URL, then what is going to happen is that whenever grub gets done imaging the site, it's going to make a call back to that spool regardless of when it was created. And so if it has already made a callback with an image and then we run this thing 15 seconds later when we rerun it, then it'll pick up the last file that's in that list of file names. And that's in the models section. So we have these models, And if we go in here and we look at the spool, we'll see that we've got a URL here. So it's just going to go in there and it's going to get the list of file names, which is a JSON property in NDB. That's Google's storage system. And it's gonna create a JSON property, and that's going to be the list of files. And I think with the append, it's probably the last file. So it's like first, like it's going to put one in it, and it'll be at the first entry. It's going to put another one in, and it'll be the second entry, third entry, fourth entry, so on. So what we need to do is grab the last one, because that's presumably the one it just did. But if it isn't the last one, then it doesn't matter, because we'll still show it whatever we did. In other words, it's not the current one, we'll show the last one after 15 seconds. We just sort of give up. And that's what we're going to do for right now. We can get more sophisticated with this later. So the question is, if last bag is not equal to nothing, or to an empty string, and we're sending it to an empty string up here, last bag, then what we're going to do is we're going to do all of this stuff. And then if it's not, then we just need to say something like, and keeping in mind that it may be showing the wrong image, but at least if it's indexed before, it'll be in there. Then we're just going to give an error response. And I don't know, that seems like sort of an excuse, but that should work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to test this out. So this should work in 15 seconds. I find that it usually works in 15 seconds. Sometimes it doesn't, though. The grub boxes will be, their speed will be improved by about twice as fast when I go into production. But and you can see there that what happened is that filled in, and then it didn't scroll down. So this happened right here, like right there. I have no idea why it didn't scroll. It's possible it didn't scroll because of, I don't know. It's possible it didn't scroll because the image was big, and then it took it a little bit of time to load, and you saw that it was just kind of squished, and then it went ahead and scrolled, and then it popped open. So maybe we need to set the height of this div. Let's do that. I think that would be the easiest thing to do, instead of doing some funky thing down here. Because the scroll event is going to scroll, it's going to scroll down to scrolly, and scrolly is just it's just a div in here called scrolly, right here. It actually contains all this junk down here, but I don't really want that stuff anymore. I've been rethinking what I want to put down there, so I'm going to take that out. And then we need to look at the properties of this, and the computer properties says it's 230 characters, or 230 pixels tall. So this is the, it says image wrap. I guess I could say height equals, is it 200 characters wide? It says it's 300. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe it's being overridden. So it says here width 320. Max height 250. I could do something like this. Style equals Alright, so I'm going to reload the page. And we're going to do grub, HTTPS. Past due by 2 months. That's what happens. At least I don't have to have a board meeting about it. Okay. So what we want here, I don't know if I want an enhancement. Do I want it to be an enhancement? Is that safe? That didn't save. Release. Labels. It's kind of not a command, but it's definitely the UI. Well, I guess it's an enhancement. And what we want is history. I guess it is a command. And what that would do is we would, and usually what I do is I just go in here and I do this. When I have this things like this, an idea or something like that, I just do history.js, save the file, go in here and then say something like controller something like that. All right. Now let's check out this guy. And looks like we've got an element style of 250. So I didn't watch it, but let's try it again. There's definitely more stuff needs to go in here. One of the things I need to do is where you click on this and it opens up a window. And there you can see that the height was there, so our scroll should work now. All right, so I'm satisfied with that. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to work on indexing. So I'm a little nervous, but because this could be a total rat hole, but maybe it will be a rat hole and we'll have a good time with it. At least I'm not a cat this time. All right, so in order to get into this, we need to go take a look at our documentation. So I'm going to head over to mitta.us. If you haven't seen Mitta, or this is the first time in here, or just whatever, you've been watching and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, Mitta is a site that helps you collect and organize information you find online in the form of imagery and text. So essentially you can collect any type of images or text that you like, including images of websites which contain text in them and images. And then Mitta will sort and crawl and collate and then index, when we get done with indexing, index that data and make it searchable for you using a simple chat UI. That sort of looks like a shell. They also have extensions for email and SMS and Slack. So if you're looking for something and you happen to be in Slack and you want to shoot it over to somebody, you can just use the Slack plugin or the Slack bot function that we'll have to allow you to search from Slack and then copy and paste things over to other people so that they can see the information that you're sharing with them. In a way, it's sort of like a personalized internet archive for you, and in other ways, it's a little bit like Google, in that if you were to bookmark enough things, you would be able to go and use it to search for the things that you're interested in. And they can even do content discovery for you later. As more people use it, I'll be able to determine that there's content that matches the content that you're saving, and that I can give you recommendations and things like that for additional content. But for now, it's basically a search engine for the things that you find online. So we're logged in already, and we're going to just check real quick that everything is sort of functional. I mean, it doesn't really work perfectly, but we don't have it working the way we want to have it working, where we have images come back here and URLs. But we have some data coming back, which is basically the stuff that's been typed in to the prompt. And we have the ability to crawl something. So what we need to do is we need to drop back and take a look at the API. We've gone through implementing all of these, well, I say all of these, the top entries such as upload, crawl, and settings are all done, and we're working on the index APIs still. We're going to get out of it though pretty quick, so I feel it coming to a head here soon. So what we need to do is we need to post to the Sidekick name here. So let's take a look at what we need to do there with that, and let me think. So we have a situation where if we call the crawl, and we're doing that here, so we're doing something like a grub, like what we did earlier. So we're doing this. Let me clear this real quick so it's not that down the bottom. So we're doing something like this, and what happens is when we submit it, almost immediately we get back the spool. And so at this point we could index it to make it searchable. So the user has essentially said, here's an URL that's interesting to me, let's index it. And so then what I should do at that point is actually index that URL that the user gives me, so that I can at least come back and find it if they decide to navigate away from the page or whatever. So here is where we need to do it. Once we've hit enter, we need to call here. And this only gets called when it's done with the post to create the spool. The title and description get loaded. It's kind of interesting. I'm printing them backwards here, so let me change the order here. So like that. And I probably should say something like here, controller report, Sidekick. And then we actually want to make that the reality, so we're going to do an Ajax, and let's comma here. Data type is JSON. Error function XHR status error. And then we want to, that's parent. Oh, subline. Okay. So we need to figure out what the URL is that we're going to call. So I'm just going to go look here. So it's going to be /i/ and then it's the what sidekick ID. It's the sidekick ID because we're going to post to the sidekick name. And if we look inside of shell here, sidekick ID gets updated whenever update sidekick is run. And we have these functions now where we can say sidekick. So we have multiple sidekicks in here, and then we can select, for example, we're using homey ruby oyster right now, but we could switch to slimy brown lizard. And now that's the active index. So I just saw something. So what I want to do here is I want to do a controller prompt text. I just want to make sure that the cursor is active. That's been bothering me. So you can somehow, you can click off in here, and then you can click on this, and then now it's showing up there, but just a second ago it didn't. So I just want to make sure that that actually does show up. I don't know, I don't think I did this on stream. Can't remember if I did or not, but I added the ability to delete these as well. So for example, I could delete this sidekick, and then it'll delete it, and then if I do a sidekick, it'll show that I only have 2, and then it'll ask me if I want to create one. And it doesn't do anything, you can click on no. But that created a new sidekick called Woozy Chestnut Emu. And I'm not sure why all of the little adjectives, is it adjective? Adverbs, adjectives, in front of the names are all sort of negative, like homey, slimy. Well, maybe homey's not, but they seem to be a little, I don't know. They seemed a little bit like this woozy, slimy, homey. This seemed kind of a little off, but anyway, maybe I'll find some happier adjectives to put in there. So what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to look at the inspector and go to the console, and then I'm just going to say sidekick ID, and it's not there. So let's see, console log sidekick ID. That's weird. It should be defined. It's on the page. It's right here. I don't know. That should be right, but it'll be available in here. So let's just actually log it here. Let's say here inside of grub. So we're going to look at we're going to hit up the sidekick ID, and then this is a comma, and then the type is a post, and then the data is what do we need to send with the post? Requires token and takes a JSON object or spool returned from an upload method. Okay. I'm just going to return an empty document for right now. And then there's a comment, let's see, no, this. Data type JSON, error function, XHR, status. That looks good. And then we want, so we want to say blah blah, error recorded. Let's do this. This is just a little compact function I wrote to be able to handle an error. And then end our error. And then we have an end Ajax call and then a done function. So let's label what this does. Well, we haven't labeled what this one's doing, but let's do those. New, create a new crawl, grub crawl via the APIs. And then this is post document to the index API. Yeah. So now with the index, we will automatically, if somebody's logged in, we'll automatically have a sidekick created for them. So that's the index. So it'll automatically create them. If they try to delete all of them, it'll also sort that around. And if they try to set it to be wrong, it checks to make sure they have it, and if they don't have it, it'll find one they have. And if they don't have one, it'll create it for them and then assign it to them. So it does all that stuff inside of index. So it does all that in here. That's what all this code does. All right, so what we're going to be doing is calling the send a document function. So we want to put a post in here. Login is required, and then this should be something like send document. Maybe index document? Got create, list, delete. We have those done, but we just call it index. And then we have the name being passed in, and then we need to ask for this stuff. What is a really good question is how to get that out of here, and I actually have no idea. We're going to have to figure it out. So I'll do my standard return. Response headers need to be set to application JSON. So we're going to make sure this works. Go back into grub and let's take a look at what we're doing here. So we're posting the document to the index API. We're going to post it to /i/sidekick ID, which should be updated to our current sidekick if we're inside the shell. It's going to do a post. It's going to post some data to it, but we don't know what it's going to look like yet. So I'm calling it document. So maybe I need to, I don't know. I'll have to look. Data type is JSON because it is sending JSON. I feel like this is I feel like this is probably like sending the images. So it may be if we go in and look at upload and we look at how we're pulling out the image here. That's the create. Here's the actual upload. It says in request files. So maybe I want to say something like this. So we have Flask request being imported, which is what we want. And then what we actually want to say here is documents. If documents in request files. And I think we want to make this a list. We'll make it an empty list. Then we want to, what are we going to do here? Request files documents. So documents equals request files documents. Maybe print documents, like that, and then return an OK. So we're going to go back into grub and we're going to double check this. We'll see if we print something. Site has been indexed using the title and description. So that should print OK at the prompt when I run it. Okay, so we're going to run it again and see what happens. Internal server error reported. Okay, well, let's take a look at what it's saying and let's see if we got an error over here. We did. Response not defined. Well, that's good. So let's go back and take a look at index and it says response headers, and well, that's because we haven't built a response. So we're going to do something like this. So we're going to say copy that. And then we're going to paste that, and then we're going to update this return to be a return of response. And we are going to render a template, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is going to be I guess, index response. We're going to go up here, we're going to go into API templates, and we're going to say new file, and we're going to say index response. We're going to save that, and then we're going to say JSON. We're going to go back to grub, and I'm sorry, upload. I'm sorry, index. Let's get rid of upload so I don't get confused again. And we're going to say API index response JSON timestamp sidekick request URL. That actually looks okay. So I want to do something like this. Oops. may need to add that back in here in a second, but I'll try. See what it does. This is having error. Alright, let's take a look at the network. So we'll run it again. So there's the jQuery. And it said it's getting an error back. So what's happening is that there's an error in here somewhere. So let me select this, and I want to go and say JavaScript validator. We'll paste it in here. Unexpected token line 2. What? Oh, that's the JSON. Code is syntactically valid. Did I save it? Having error. Let's reload real quick. Aha! It's still broken? It is. Line 175. Wrong thing. 175 here. I need a comma. Well, that's a good sign. Site has been indexed using the title and description. So I made a call to woozy chestnut emu. So /I woozy chestnut emu, which was the that's the index, and then it returned a response which says woozy chestnut emu success, and then no documents. So that's exactly what we wanted, was it for it to do that. So all this has now been stubbed out. So that means that at this point we're ready to figure out the document that we want to send over into Solr, and then we want to put that insertion in Solr here into Solr. So we are going to go into Solr, which is under lib, and if you're just joining, I'm going to keep repeating this over and over again throughout the series, I think, probably, is that all this code is closed source. So at some point when I get launched or whatever, one of the first things that I'm going to do after launch is I'm going to take most of what I've written for grub, which is the box that creates that image here, this image right here that got created, the thing that makes this. Most of that is open source project anyway. It's not as if there's not like a viral license on it where I'm forced to open source it because I'm using in a remote call method. But I want to make sure that all of the code that does all of this is open source. So no matter whether I'm creating an image and shoving it into Solr or whatever, I'm going to make all that code open source. So it'll be like, basically it'll be the grub box which images a site. It'll be the Solr deployment that I've put together, which just gives you a Solr index, and then the functions to like manage all the endpoints and the APIs, and then the ability to create the indexes in the Solr deployment and make them searchable via a simple API, which will be similar to the ones that we're going through right now, writing. And then finally a TensorFlow deployment, which will be able to access both the index and the imager. So it'll be able to throw out a call to the imager and say, go index this website. It'll bring back the image, it'll save it, and then it'll stick it in the index, and then the TensorFlow can read from it from that point. The whole idea is to put grub 2.0 is it's an AI crawler, so it's a machine learning crawler. So it's a crawler for machine learning libraries to both be able to go out and crawl the web as well as for training them. So if you want to do some training and you don't want to have to go and look for all the images, it'll just go crawl for the images and then use that for training, or pulling back the page text as well. So like in the case of GPT-3, they trained it on a common crawl data set, and so in this case what they could have done is just simply use grub to crawl as opposed to using something like some custom code for hitting the common crawl endpoints. I just want to put together, it's not going to be anything that's like crazy, but there will be some stuff basically that I do train a network to extract images and stuff from the page. So that's what we're really looking for, is to be able to kind of pull the page apart into its pieces. So for example, if we always index Google News, the pieces of the sidebar over here are not something we want to look at. We don't care about the words top stories for you following. We don't care about any of that. We can make an AI drop that out. We want to see the headlines, and we want the images from this page is what we want. And we want those because we're going to show them to the user, or in your case of running it yourself, you're going to use the different imagery for different things. Give you distances to the images, so we would know, for example, this image was related to this content because it was close to it. All right, so what do we need to do now? Well, I'm going to poke around in Solr. So Solr has a thing called create collection that gets called whenever there is not a collection that for the user or for the particular sidekick. So the collection and the sidekick and the index are all kind of the same thing. So in this particular setup that I have, a core, a collection, and an index and a sidekick are all the same thing. It's an index. So we have an add document function here, and we have a query document function. And the add document function takes a call with a document. And then this is actually what adds the document. And it all does that to the Solr box. In fact, as I type in here, like you can see here, this particular call that fails, it actually gets logged. I say logged, it gets indexed because right here, add document. So we're adding this document. This is just logging what's being typed in. I guess what I want to do next is I want to loop through here and I say for document in documents. And then I'm going to print the document. Delete this one. We're going to run that grub command again, and well, before we do that, we need to Okay. So those should be the documents, and we should see those documents pop out now when we do this. Don't see anything. It could be a form. It's probably a form. So here, maybe I don't do, because it's not a file. I guess this is wrong. This. Because this is, well, that's a list of dictionaries. And here, this is a list of, I guess it's a list of named dictionaries. Let's check and make sure this is valid JSON. Says wrong. Expecting into file. So I think this actually should be something like this. I just wrote this. I wrote this a while ago, so I don't know what I was even thinking when I wrote it. Well, there should be a thing here. Okay. Well, did I not get all of it? So let's try and do this. Oh, I see. There we go. That should validate. No, it doesn't. What's wrong with it? Parse error. No, that doesn't work. Well, that makes sense, because you can't do that. This would have to be a dictionary for this to work like that. So we don't want to do that. It's actually this. And we want to delete this. So it's just like what I had designed over here with this. So this is valid JSON. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's valid. Okay. So then, I don't know. So like I think this so number one, I need to fix this. I need to fix it to where it looks like what I want it to look like. I think. I was just making up shit in here when I was writing it. API. So this would be source type, and then this is spool, and then we want a timestamp. That's just a timestamp. Upload URL, do we unupload URL? I don't know. Maybe. We definitely want, so if the source type is spool, then what are we giving it? It's got an upload URL here, but we need to just give it all of this stuff. I think this is just the document. I think we just put it in there flat like this. So it's going to have the URL. It's going to have the upload. That's to view it, in theory. Bushes, description, tags, file names. And then we have another document, which is just a source type. Maybe just text. And then timestamp. Maybe we put created in here. And that's it. Okay, and then we're going to validate this. How are we doing? An hour? Shocking. Okay, we got an hour to go. So that's valid JSON, which is great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a file just like it suggests here. We're going to put it in data.json. So let's do that in, where shall we do this? We'll put it in static. Okay. And then we're going to grab this. And we're going to paste that in. Shift insert. Method not allowed. Well, that makes sense because we don't have the right spool yet. So we need to post an existing spool. And we need to post to a good index. So let's say here on our index. So we've got slimy brown lizard. Let's do woozy chestnut emu. So we're gonna post a woozy chestnut emu. We're gonna upload the data.json file, which we have saved here into static. And then we're going to update our token. Shift insert. And then I don't think the file's there. So it says this makes an empty post. So we're going to go into static. So we'll try this again. Okay, so it's 405 method not allowed. This method is not allowed for the requested URL. So posting to mitta.us, and that's correct because that does not have it yet because we're working on it. So this is localhost 8080. That's the port that we're listening on over here. Now let's try that. And then we should see that request there. There we go, right there. And then it says invalid token. All right, really? I didn't expect my token to be invalid. a lot. I know I got it copied right. So that's my token. I don't have a good feeling about this. Invalid token. Ah. Okay, so I suspect that this will work. Right. So that works, but the other one doesn't because it's got duplicate data. So I'm trying to upload the data binary too, plus the D dash D in here. So let's go look at the authentication stuff. So I'm doing the load request right here. I say if not token, request form get token. None. Wood token. So for some reason the request form is empty. It's probably due to this thing right here. So if we do this, I would expect us to get a token. No, we don't get a token. That's a little odd. So we're going to do a request form get token. $8 years. Ugh. Yeah, request form get right there. I know for a fact that worked before. Request form get token. So first we try this, then we try this. There's a get JSON. Let me go back and look at the request. Make sure I'm not crazy. So it's a post with a dash D and then the token is passed. The token says equals. Then we're giving it a dash H saying content application JSON. Is that the problem? Whoops. I suspect this is going to work. Yeah, it does. So the reason why it's doing it is because we're setting, when we set the content type, it's expecting this to be JSON. And it's not. And so then so basically if you're doing this type of request, in the case of, I just closed it. If you're doing this right here, you're going to need to not do that. So I need to change that to right here, here. We're going to take this out, and we're going to put it somewhere where it doesn't have to be JSON, which is at the end of this. And because we have that dual logic, and they're handling, that's not what I want. Token equals, and then I want my token. Shift insert. Well, that works in here too. Shift insert. That's good to know. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that looks good. So it's going to go on the end. And we can take this out now. So we're saying data binary data.json. Okay. And I'm going to go back to index. I'm going to close out some of these other ones we don't need. So here's our example. So then we're going to be posting that to the index endpoint here. Here. And it says request files documents, but then what are we calling it? Oh, excuse me. I guess they were just saying data binary at data.json. I don't know. Maybe it is in request files? I don't know. Print request files. That's what we're going to do. None of this is probably going to work because there's no documents in there. There's nothing named documents. So we're just going to say print request files. Okay. So then we're going to go back to here. I'm going to run that again. It said wood token, which is great. So we're I gotta go back into here and delete all that. We got our token, which is good. And then okay. So then let's see, immutable multi-dict. Is that true? Is that an immutable multi-dict? Data.json. Oh, well, we're not. Silly me. So it is empty. So we need the rest of this part here. And then we need to put it right here. No, we don't want that one. We want the one with the token on the end, dude. This one? Yeah. But we want to delete this token part, this stuff right here. Okay. So it says immutable multi-dict still. So we are saying that we're uploading the data.json file. We're gonna close this. And we're saying, oh, we're printing request files. Well, none of this is gonna work. I have no idea. How to handle a data binary, upload data binary JSON. Data. Three years ago, that's pretty good. Here's the answer. This is datas. Well, that should be this. I have no idea. It's probably none of this stuff's gonna work. Let's try this again. Highlighting something probably. That didn't say anything. Did it? No. It didn't say anything at all. So this is empty. Would loop, but there's nothing in there. It's not getting me anything. So it's not picking up that file. Okay, well, how does this work? How to read files sent from curl to Flask. This is pretty much what we're doing. Although we're using a data binary, I think. Data binary. And this @ sign is that shorthand, I think, for file. File name equals here. Way occurs is reading hello and putting in the body of the request. This feature is actually very useful with a large chunk of JSON you need to send to the server. Normally in AppEngine JSON request, you send the JSON as the body of the request, so this is maybe what you want. You can use request get JSON to get this data as a Python dictionary. Okay. That's it. So is it just print data, let's see, what do we want? Request dot get JSON, like that? Is it just that? Is it that easy? No. Well, if we spelled request right, it would be. Oh, Sublime. Why do you do this to me? Well, bam, there it is. So there, that's it. And then we can loop through this. So let's see here. So request JSON equals request.getJSON. Yes. And then we're going to do for what? Document in And then I want like that. Well, this is, oh, source type. Maybe we should just make it source type. Where is it? Here. So I think all of these have to have source types, otherwise it's going to barf. Because I need another source type, I think. Maybe I don't. TBD. Yeah, we're doing work over here, so let's go here. Spool and text. That's perfect. So I think we should be able to... That's the whole document. So print document source type? Yeah, that's it. So it's just going to be the document. And so here what we want to do is Solr. So do I have an index? Do I have Solr up here? Yep, add document. So then I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to say, I want to make sure I do this right. So it's add document, comma, sidekick name. And I think we still want to put the user ID in there. I don't know why I'm counting documents. That's not going to work. Query documents, count documents, doc count. I want to do a doc count is what I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm counting those. I may want to take this out. I'm getting into indexing, so I don't want to change things too much. But we do need to make this the sidekick name. We want the user ID. And then we do want to say this. So set index stuff, whatever. Fluff. And then we're going to build a request. The result is success. The response is a request post. So what we're doing is straight up returning what Solr is returning us to the user making this call. Well, actually what we're doing from here is we're returning the request that Solr is giving us. So we're going to pass through the request that Solr is giving us. And in this, we're going to post the data. With the doc being the document. That all looks good to me. So it should return two of them, I think. Although I remember, I think we could just pass it all together. I think that's right. So maybe I don't do this for loop here. I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to add document request request JSON documents. And I guess I want to, I don't know, Solr response equals, I want to make sure that the Solr's responding correctly here. Yep. Now we're going to go back over here. I'm going to do this again. Bam! Blows up. Add document. Missing one required positional argument. Sidekick name. Index lines 170. So I forgot to send it the current index name. And then that's add document. And that's the sidekick name. Says list indices must be integers or slices, not string. Well, that's not going to work. This is the sidekick name. Probably have to be careful. I'm calling it sidekick ID in the HTML or the JavaScript. And I'm calling it sidekick name here, so whatever. So should I always query the sidekick name? I don't know. I don't know whether to like maybe add them together. Ooh. Well, this is definitely not where the user ID is coming from, so I know for a fact I can take that out. Everything else is going to blow up though. So if I go into the shell, this is going to all blow up. Maybe I have enough time to fix it though. Yeah, I have 30 minutes, so I should be able to fix that by the time we get done with the stream. Well, I don't know what to do here. I do feel like the user ID needs to be coming in here. So maybe... Ooh, sorry, I keep yawning. Got up early this morning, unfortunately. So document sidekick name user ID. Okay, I think that looks okay. For now, we're gonna leave it this way for now. This is, what's our context in here? Flask, this is this thing. We'll go back in here and put the variable names here in a second. I just want to get it working. We'll clean it up here in just a minute. Right now we're just calling it with the variable, the values. So we're not, it's done by order right now. The call is done by order of things in here. But I like naming them just so that just makes more sense. So let's try that and see what happens. Does this index? Does it index? Indexing or not? It says success. Result, success, response, server, yes. No sniff, mode, protected block, default source content, frame ancestors, source media, same origin. Well, Ubuntu's answering. Why is Nginx responding to us here? Huh. Well, I guess I'm going to go look and see if it went into the index. So one thing we can look is we can say, let's see here. So our current sidekick is, oh, that's weird. This blow up, sidekick name and user ID. Oh, add document. I gotta take that out now. That's what I said it was gonna blow up, and sure enough it did. So we go into shell, and we gotta go down here to add document right here. So we're gonna take out this. All right, let's try that and see if that works. Nope. Index response not defined 238. Oh, let's take out all this shit. Well, we know that's not working. Or it's doing something weird. We need to track down this problem. Okay, so Woozy Chestnut Emu is our guy, or gal, if you like. And this is our box, 3483. So 3483. And then I gotta go look at the token. So we're gonna look at this token right here. This one. Which is how the boxes communicate to each other back and forth. And then, what did I say his name was? I've already forgotten. A Woozy Chestnut Emu. Here it is right here. Woozy Chestnut Emu. And it has no documents. I'm going to query it, execute query, there's no documents. Okay. So, what is the problem? So, Solr response add document. And so we're coming in here and it says, let's see, like print wood document. And what do we want to do here? We don't want to do that. We want to actually run this thing. So it says wood document. And then probably is getting 0 documents. At least the core is created. So there's that. Then it says data equals JSON dumps. So then let's try to do this, like that, see what that looks like. So we've got an add, is that right? Yeah, an add. And we have doc source type equals spool. So that's the doc. Spool created, URL, upload URL, title, bushes, description, make like a bush and dirt root, tags, leaves, root, dirt, bushes, file name, bush1, blah, 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 blah. Then the next one is source type, created, etc., da 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 da, all the way down to here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it, and then, did I? Probably. And then let's go check and see if it's valid JSON. So this is valid. So that's what it looks like adding it. I wonder if it doesn't like, let's see here. So add multiple documents to Solr. JSON. What if we just uploaded it? Doesn't like that. What if we gave it the document? It doesn't like that either. What if we just gave it a simple document like this? Well, like that. When we query, there's the document. I thought you could do this though with Solr. How to update multiple documents in Solr. Well, this is what this person's doing here. Solr expects one add key in the JSON structure for each document, which might seem weird if you think the original meaning of the key in the object. Oh, I see. Okay. Whatever. So we're... Oh. How do you do that? Well, I could loop and just do each one, but then I'm going to get back multiple responses. But then I could just see if those responses were okay. See, it's a dictionary, so it's got multiple. It does seem weird. It passes some online validators with freeform JSON. It explains that JSON input is not according to valid to RFC 4627. I think the problem is you can't have multiple keys that are called add. So if that's repetitive, if it repeats like this, copy. If we put it in here, it's probably going to validate. I would imagine it. Now, yeah, duplicate key add. Solr. Doing stuff the way Solr wants to do things is what's happening here. Well, what do? We don't really want. I mean, we're not expecting someone to do this, so we're kind of handling it for them. But let's try something here. So let's take this, which we suspect to be probably functional, and let's do file. No wait, documents. I'm going to paste this in here, and we're going to submit this document, and it says it took it. Course. And then we're going to look. So is number found? Huh. I don't know what the hell that is. That doesn't look good. You know what I'm going to do here is I'm going to I'm going to leave this like it is. I'm going to leave this like it is. I'm going to save this. Take this out. I'm going to go into index, and I'm going to say for document in requests JSON documents, and then I'm going to say this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to print the response. and then let's see what happens. I think that's going to work. I think that's probably a good way to do it. It's just one document at a time. So what do we get here? Result success response server, set form, blah, 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 blah. Why is it saying all that to me? I don't understand. No sniff. Did it work or did it not work? I don't know. But it worked. So there's the source type spool. Here's the source type text. We don't have any text here yet. And then we've got some problems going on with this. I guess that's okay. So we should be able to do a query here. So we're going to say description and bush. That works. All right, let's wire that up to grub. So we're going to go in here to grub. No, not that one. What's that one doing in here even? Should we delete that? I think that's right. We're going to delete that. I think that's right. Let me go and look real quick. Recursive. Sorry, that was kind of loud, probably. The hammer in the keyboard. I used to work with this guy, Igor. Big shout out to Igor if he happens to watch this eventually. Igor, I'm working on grub. And he'd be typing along. That guy would code like mad. Worked for Splunk. Worked for Splunk for years. And then bam, he'd hit the enter key. Jump. He'd shake his watch. He'd get all excited. He's awesome. Okay, totally missing. All right, so it is COVID. That's what we're doing now. We're all working alone. Okay, Solr response equals add document, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that looks fine. And then I guess what I'm going to do is I need to look here. I need to look for errors. I don't know. Something. I need to look at the responses. And then I'm going to make a response. But for now, this should work. Okay, now so I'm going to go over to the grub command here. And I'm posting it here. In this case, it's actually, I want to post all this stuff. But I'm actually posting the spool. So I should have the spool back. Yeah, I have the spool. I feel like the document is the spool, but then the source type is going to be, that poses sort of a problem. Was I actually handling this? That's the question. So before request get JSON. Yes. So what I'm going to do here is I want to print this. To make sure that grub is sending it to me. And I say grub, I mean grub the command. So the grub command is sending it to me. So it's going to send me something that looks like that document. It's just one document. So it's actually just the spool. Well, we know source type is going to be spool, right? Created is data spool description. URL is data. Well, let's just go through and copy this. Title. Just because I have to put that source type in there now, I have to specify all of them. Otherwise, I could just set the spool. I just put shove spool in there, but I have to unwind it now because I'm making it flat. I mean, I could nest it, I guess. So I could make a source type called spool, and then make a field called spool, and then make the spool. I don't know. Doesn't sound like a good idea. We're gonna do this. Well, we're gonna have tags and stuff like that, but I'm gonna hold back for a second and let's see if this works. So we gotta go in here and do a post. How much time we got left? We got about 13 minutes. That's about long enough. We're doing indexing though. We are indexing today, so I'm grateful for that. All right, so we're gonna go run grub again. And it says internal server error reported. So what do we get? We got line 171 for document request JSON. None type object is not iterable. Okay. And that's an index, right? 171. Here. And we probably tried to print it at some point here. It said it was none. Really? So it's saying that it got no JSON whatsoever. Okay. So there's data right there. It says data type JSON. So our it says data binary content type application JSON, which that data type should set that. I mean, the problem is we're not getting, like this Ajax post is not posting the data. So what we need an Ajax post equivalent to what? Curl data binary dash -h, the capital H, -h content type application JSON. Is it a form? Is it something in a form? I have no idea. Can I print the request? I think it's just going to be a request object. There's a request. So let's do a dir on the request. So what do we have in here? Method, MIME type, form. You can get JSON. What is the Flask command for that? Let's see here, or Flask docs. Get JSON. Parse JSON, parse data as JSON. If the MIME type does not indicate JSON, this returns is none. If parsing fails, on JSON load fail is called and its return value is used as a return value. Parameters. So this says parse data as JSON. Property data contains the incoming request data as string in case it comes with a MIME type, which does not handle. Right there. And we know it's none. So if we call it, it's none. What else can we call? We've got files, form, header, JSON. We got JSON. Let's see what JSON is. We want this, like that. I'm gonna run it in here. Are we gonna get done? Who knows? Did we get another error? Well, we surely got another error. Google's like, what the hell are you doing crawling me? And that has no attribute. Well, it says it does right there. It says it has an attribute JSON. Oh, it's a function. What were we were doing that to, oh, the request. So this is request JSON. Let's see what that is. Parent request JSON. None type object is not callable. None type object. Like that. Is that gonna work? None type is not iterable. Well, it says none. So that's saying in line 171. So it's saying that it's trying to. So there's nothing in JSON. So let's see here. Let's actually look at the request. So we're going to go into network under our inspector and we're going to run this command again. Maybe. And there. Nope. Did it crash? Something's funny happening. What is going on here? Is everything broken? I don't think so. Why is it barfing all of a sudden? It wasn't barfing earlier. That's totally barfing. Were we in grub? I don't think we're in grub, are we? What's wrong in here? I don't know what's happening to it. Edit, redo, left, delete. Well, that's not going to help me. I mean, that doesn't matter. But is this... I don't understand what just happened. Let's take this out. I'm on localhost. It's still breaking. Yes. We're on localhost. Okay, what if we give it something else? Did Google do something weird to us? It'd be kind of interesting if they did. Oh. That's strange. I'm gonna have to go look at that. What would be failing would be this thing, I think. I don't know what it would be failing to, oh. That would fail. So if we run this, no, blows up. So Google must be, probably saying you're doing it too fast, maybe. Well, let's look at the inspect network. What does it say here? 404 not found. Well, I have no idea what's happening to it, but at least we can crawl Y Combinator, so we'll finish with that. I'll figure out what's wrong with it here in a minute. They could be blocking us. I don't know. Or maybe it's just something else. Maybe there's an error in the code, like I have too much data in there or something like that. It may be that you can't save that many files. I run that one all the time, and so maybe I've got an upper limit. I think there is an upper limit on that JSON, so I'll have to go check that. That's probably what it is. So, okay, so what we are trying to figure out is, here what's happening to data. So let's go look at the Ajax call. So this is jQuery Ajax call, and it says should be a thing in here called data. Here it is right here. Data to be sent to the server. If the HTTP method is one that cannot have an entire body such as a GET, the data is appended to the URL. When the data is an object, jQuery generates the data string from the object key value pairs unless the process data option is set to false. For example, blah, 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 blah is converted to the string, oh, I see. If the value is an array, jQuery serializes multiple values with the same key based on the value of the traditional setting. And then we're setting the data type to JSON. Oh, expected, no, this is the stuff coming back. Well, that's totally not helpful. That doesn't mean anything to that. Let's see. Error, global, headers, is local, JSON P. Override the function named in a JSON P request. That's for a callback. Method, MIME type, process data. By default, data passed in the data option as an object, technically anything other than a string, will be processed and transformed into a query string fitting to the default content type, application XForm URL encoded. If you want to send a DOM document, I don't want to send a DOM document. I want to send a damn JSON. I want to send JSON. Is local data. Convert content. This object will be the content of all Ajax related callbacks. This will be the context of all Ajax. Okay, that's not it. Contents. An object of string regular expression determines how jQuery will parse the response. Complete. Cache before send. Well, hell, I don't know. I don't think I'm doing it right. Let's see. So jQuery Ajax post JSON. jQuery post. this. Request the test page, send some additional data along while still ignoring the results. Well, data. So, but I mean, according to them, all that's going to be converted. But then we have data type JSON, success, failure, markers, URL, type, content type. Data, JSON stringify, markers. Then I gotta do that. Let's see what happens now. None type object is not iterable. Line 171. I think we knew that. An index here. So I don't know, is that request JSON documents, request get JSON? That's not going to be. So grub is saying that it's sending this as data. So in theory, we should be able to pull out, would it be args? I'm looking for the args, like form get. It's a post, so we should be able to do a form get, right? And is there a URL in there? It's in grub. There's the URL right there. So then we want to print URL. I don't know. That should work. I don't know. Probably not gonna work. Nope. Request JSON documents is not defined. 171. Oh yeah. So we'll just comment this out. It's broken. None. So it's not pulling it. We can say args get. We could also look at it. Let's see here. Inspect. I want to see the request. So that's the response. How odd. Huh. Well, that's the call to. So here we're posting to the Sidekick ID. That's this thing, headers, post, the Woozy Chestnut. So that's this one right here. And then we're saying the data form data, source type, spool, created, URL. Why isn't created working? Oh. Or is it updated? The URL, the URL's in there, title, and the description. And description needs to be updated. So all those are going with it for form data. But the whole thing's been stringified, right? Sorry, I kicked the mic. So how to, I mean, it's showing here that this is like exactly what they're doing here. So it's saying the key to avoiding invalid JSON primitives is pass jQuery a JSON string for the data parameter, not a JSON JavaScript value. So the jQuery doesn't attempt to URL encode your data. On the server side, match your method's input parameters to the shape of the data you're passing. Well, that doesn't help us because I need the access to the. I need to be able to do a curl and the query from call, what is it? Or 208, we're over. I'm gonna have to punt on this one. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna figure it out, and then I'm gonna probably start another stream here in a little bit and do another one today. I'm running behind this week, so I need to post another one today for sure. So I'll see you all in a little bit. If you like the stream, be sure and let me know. I'm keeping them at 2 hours. Be sure and like, subscribe, and follow. If you watch the stream, you should learn some programming from me probably, especially if you're doing Flask and Python and JavaScript. Site's not real complicated. I keep the tech real low. And if you like what you see, be sure and give me a holler. I'd love to hear from you. Be sure and test out Mitta at mitta.us, and we'll be up soon. Hopefully, we're a couple months behind, but that's okay. It's the pandemic. We're just going to keep plugging, and well, I hope to see you soon. And take care and have a great day. Cordless out.